Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Sean from Ridesharing101.com. Please like and subscribe the video and feel free to leave a comment if you so desire. Today's vlog, I'm going to do something a little different. Today's vlog is actually going to be a driving vlog, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you through a typical shift here in the San Francisco Bay Area and what it's like. And this one I wanted to get to because it took place on Halloween. And while I don't have a dash cam on this one, I'm still getting that set up. I will take you through kind of a list of places that I stopped, people I picked up, and some of the highlights from the more interesting conversations and observations. So without further ado, here we go. Ridesharing 101 driving vlog. Okay, for this driving vlog, I started off driving on Halloween, and I've driven on Halloween before, and you don't really want to drive too late because the city offers a lot of free amenities. Buses run, Bay Area Rapid Transit, the BART, the subway runs for free. So there are a lot of avenues that people can use to get around the city safely. So I started after work about 3 o'clock, and I drove just for a few hours. I basically wanted to be finished by the time it really started getting dark. I didn't want glitter, I didn't want grease paint, I didn't want to deal with a bunch of drunk people, so I figured I'd get people on their way to places, pre-parties and such before I hit the road. So, first fare, 316. I accept a passenger, and it's on Polk and Market. And the very first ride, the person that I pick up has a very interesting name. And it's a woman, and her name is Furby. And for those of you who don't remember, I think it's back in the 80s, a Furby was a toy that sort of looked, it was a cross between one of the cute gremlins and the owl from the Tootsie Pop commercial. How many bites does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Roll Pop? 1, 2, 3. Anyway, so that's what a Furby is. But when I first saw the name, I thought it was furry. And if you live in San Francisco Bay Area, we have a lot of different subcultures here. And furries were even covered on an episode of CSI. But basically, a furry is someone that likes to dress up in animal costumes. And it can be anything from a simple little eye mask to a full-on body costume with a head covering. So you could have a 50-year-old biker with a pot belly dressed up as a pink unicorn, and you'd have no idea who's there. And furries, they have furry conventions, they have furry parties, they get together. Interesting things happen at furry parties from what I understand. There can be a lot of touching and rubbing down. You can kind of get into I don't know what it's called, I call it a scrum, where you have a big group of furries petting each other, and it's not unheard of that there's anonymous furry sex. So when I first picked up this person, I thought it was furry, and I'm looking for somebody in a furry costume. But it turned out it was Furby. And Furby turned out to be an Asian woman dressed up as a Droog. And for those, well, a couple things. First off, the Droogs are a great band from the Pacific Northwest, but Droogs were also the characters. They were the bad street gang from Stanley Kubrick's movie A Clockwork Orange. And she's got a bowler hat on and some funky eyeliner, and I'm assuming that's where she got the idea from her costume. So I pick up the Furby, and the first thing that she says is, "Hey, I'm kind of in a hurry, so anything you could do to get me to my destination would be appreciated." And I will tell you this, anytime somebody says that, they will never, ever tip you. They just expect that you're going to do whatever they want you to. So I respond with, sure, I'll do my best. Just don't forget to tip at the end. And she's kind of, non-committal about that. But we cross Market, go down near Mission. I have to go down an alley and cross 3 lanes of traffic in half a block, which is a minor miracle in and of itself. But I've been driving for 5 years. I work downtown. I drive downtown. I like to think I know what I'm doing. And anyway, I get her to her destination and I tell her, I'm probably the only driver, or one of the only drivers, that could have gotten you here this fast. So what do you think happens? Of course, she doesn't tip me. There's no cash tip. There's no tip in the app. She just barely thanks me and heads out the door. But I kind of knew that was happening, and it's the first trip, so you do what you do. So I move on and I pick up my second passenger at 2nd and Mission. And actually I make the turn on Mission and he's not there, but it's kind of a funky location. So I go down to the next light, quickly enter in a message saying, hey, missed you, had to loop around. So I loop around, we find each other. A gentleman by the name of Arnu gets in and I take him to his destination and all is good. Next passenger, I pick up at on Fillmore Street. It's a woman, and this passenger, it's now about 4 o'clock, and there is a consecutive ride bonus that is taking place. And I mentioned this in another one of my vlogs, but basically, if you start a ride in a certain territory, you have to take 3 rides in a row, and they could all be in San Francisco, or the first ride could be in this area and take you to the airport, and you could end up in San Jose. But if you do 3 consecutive rides without canceling or without allowing a ride to time out, you'll get a bonus, and today's bonus is $8, which is pretty decent. Sometimes they're like $3.50 or $4, and you just kind of have to laugh because that's a pittance. But $8 and up is basically worth trying to do. So if you get a pool ride, hey, you go for it and try to get that cash. So I pick up the woman on Fillmore. We get close to Market, and she is going to look at some commercial property. And we get close to Market. There's a lot of traffic, and she says, well, I guess I can just walk. And I tell her, well, you're on the edge of the Tenderloin, and if you look around, it's not such a great neighborhood. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not safe. It just means that there's a lot of homeless, there's tents on the sidewalk, there's trash everywhere. You don't really have to worry about getting shot or stabbed. It's more just a lot of people doing drugs, being crazy. You wouldn't leave a bike chain to a bike post in this area because somebody would steal it, but walking around, you're not going to get mugged or attacked. You'll be fine, especially while it's still daylight. So she sort of looks around, and for the first time, I guess, and sort of agrees with me, is a little startled and is like, oh yeah, we only get another half a block in 5 minutes. So she decides to go ahead and get out and walk the extra block and a half to her appointment. So that's fine. The second trip is I pick a woman up with her child on Joost Avenue, Joost, and it's a little alley off one of the main streets. And her child is dressed up as one of the characters from Star Wars, and we have I have a little talk with the daughter about, oh, you like Star Wars, and very pleasant. And they're going to Monterey Avenue, and it's a pool ride. And so we get on the freeway, we get off on the Monterey Avenue exit, and since it's a pool ride, we pick up another passenger just as we exit. And this would be fare number 3. The first one was the woman going to Market Street that got out early. The mom and her daughter is fare number 2. And at the pool ride, the guy that got in, he's number 3. So as soon as I drop him off, I will have collected an extra $8. So we drop off the mom and daughter at a house. So it looks like it's a party, maybe a school party of some kind. There's some other people there, and she's happy. The other guy gets out, and I'm not quite sure where he's going. He just gets off on the corner and he goes his merry way. Like I said, we've collected the $8. The next passenger is I pick up on Alabama Street, take her to Mission. A very nice woman named Lexi. No, I'm sorry. I pick her up in Alabama in the Mission, drop her off on Haight Street, and very nice. I remember she's blonde. That's all I remember. But she seemed pleasant. We didn't really have a in-depth conversation, but just going to Haight-Ashbury and indulge in all the fun that the Haight has to offer. The second passenger in this second bonus, I pick up on Webster Street, Webster at Buchanan. And he's got a very interesting name. It's hyphenated, and I didn't write it down in time. It's something like Jeffa Sepha or Jeffa Sepha, something like that. It's hyphenated. It rhymed, which I thought was kind of interesting. And I pick him up from what I think is an embassy. And the city has embassies all over. The Chinese embassy, for instance, is on the edge of Japantown. I temped a long time ago in 1992, had to go to the Russian embassy, which I believe is kind of above the marina in just a weird residential neighborhood. Very, very strange. They buzzed me to get in. I didn't see any soldiers with M16s or anything, but I'm on film going to the Russian embassy in 1992, I'm sure, and I don't know, I've probably got an FBI file or something. But anyway, I picked this guy up from the embassy network, and from the look of him, I thought maybe he was Micronesian or Asian of some kind. Not sure where he's from. We didn't have much of a conversation, but I dropped him off in Haight Street, and then let's see. I pick up a guy. The last trip, I pick him up on the edge of Market Street, and I drop him off on Fell Street. And he's an interesting guy because he's just had a job interview, and he does IT. And he just quit his job suddenly because it wasn't fulfilling. Had an interview, but the company is in Lafayette, which is in the East Bay, and he feels that he nailed the interview, but he just doesn't want to travel all the way out to Lafayette because he lives in San Francisco, and he likes living in San Francisco. And he was going to go home and eat some macaroni and cheese because that's all he could afford. And he's like, yeah, it wasn't really too smart to just quit my job without having another job. And I remember my good friend Byron Gill always used to say, get a job before you quit your job, because you want to make sure that, you know, you've got some money coming in. But this guy, he was in tech, in IT, felt he could get another job rather easily. And I told him, well, hey, you know, maybe this just means something good's going to come along, and you never know, so just hang tough. And he's like, yeah, that's some great advice, thanks, man. I'm going to just go home and eat my macaroni and cheese and just hang out for the night. So I dropped him off, and I figured that was a good note to end on. He seemed pretty positive. It's starting to get dark. I'm seeing more and more people out, and more and more costumes, and saw somebody dressed up as a burrito. And that was probably the best costume of the night. But that was it. I'll give you a breakdown of how much I made that night. I think it came out to be about 20 or 25 an hour. I'll give you a screenshot here, and you can see for yourself. But that's just typical driving vlog. Next one, hopefully, I'll have some more pictures so you can actually see the area that I'm talking about. So on that note, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next video. So I wanted to touch base with you guys a little bit more about the embassy network, because as I said, when I first picked up the gentleman on Webster Street, I thought it was from an embassy, and because it just says embassy network, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess there's some country has their embassy here. Not uncommon, as I mentioned. So I did a little research, though, and I found out that it's not an embassy at all. What it is it's basically a living situation. And embassy networks, there's a few in San Francisco and New York, and then there's some all over the world, Spain, Costa Rica. And basically, from what I can see, it's not a commune, but it's like a shared living space. The one where I picked this gentleman up from houses 13 individuals. It's for artists, musicians, people kind of from all over the world in the kind of creative arts, and it's for, I think, long-term stays. I think currently they said they're only accepting people that are staying for at least 30 days or longer, and I'm not sure how much the rent is, but they build themselves kind of as a diverse community, and they have a bunch of rules, or not rules, but they have guidelines that they live by. It seems very interesting. They talk about how their anti-rape culture, which I think is a great thing, but like isn't everybody. And they don't subscribe to no means no. It's yes means yes. They're sex positive, which doesn't mean that everybody there has to have sex. They just acknowledge people are sexual beings, and they respect everyone's sexuality, whether that's straight, gay, binary, abstinence, what have you. And you have to ask permission to touch somebody, and just because somebody has given you permission once doesn't mean that they will give it again. And yes means yes. So you want to hug somebody, you have to ask them if you can hug them, and just because you hug them in the morning doesn't mean you get to hug them at night. Interesting, to say the least. I'll provide the link down below, and you can check it out for yourself and see another aspect of San Francisco, because this is one, and I've been in the Bay Area since 1992, didn't even know this existed. So check out another side of San Francisco. Okay. Now, I've gone ahead and enclosed a screenshot so you can see how much money I made. And basically, I worked for about 3.5 hours and made $73, which averages out to about $21 per hour. Not the best, but not bad either. I mean, a lot of people, you'll be like, 21 an hour, but you have to remember that's before taxes. So you take taxes out, and now you're looking at 16 an hour, and then you subtract wear and tear in the car and gas, and that not so good. But I talk about rideshare, and I talk about having goals. So if you wanted to make some extra cash, maybe you needed to pay a phone bill or part of a power bill or something, then it's not bad for some quick cash. You don't have to wait 2 weeks for it. You generate it fairly quickly. It only took you 3.5 hours. So, not great, but not bad. And I always talk about having an end plan, so you're not doing this for the rest of your life, because things are changing with rideshare. In California, we have AB5, which would possibly, depending on who you talk to, make rideshare drivers employees, and that involves a whole other set of things to think about. But in the time being, this is where we're at, and a quick $73 isn't bad. So there you have it, the first video log, or first driving log for the video log, and that's what happened. So please leave some comments below. I'll try and respond. Also check out the Facebook group, Ridesharing101, all one word. And hey, I'll see you next video.